Picture this. You're standing on a pristine beach, the kind you see on travel brochures, but as the tide rolls out, it doesn't leave behind seashells. Instead, it deposits a graveyard of bottle caps, tangled fishing nets, and colorful shards of microplastics. Before we dive into the numbers, please note that this video is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Think of this not just as an environmental crisis, but as a silent, invisible tax we are all paying every single day. Now, watch as that jagged, suffocating mass of synthetic debris begins to shift and shimmer, morphing right before your eyes into a gleaming, towering mountain of gold coins. It sounds like a surreal fantasy, but it's actually a metaphor for a staggering economic reality. Every piece of plastic choking our waterways represents a direct drain on our global wealth. That figure isn't just a random number pulled from thin air. It represents what economists call lost ecosystem services. Think of these services as nature's unpaid labor. When we pollute it with plastic, we aren't just littering, we are effectively breaking the machinery of that factory. We are forcing ourselves to pay for expensive, artificial solutions to problems that the natural world used to handle for free. It's like owning a high-end mansion and deciding to fill the basement with toxic sludge instead of maintaining the foundation. Eventually, the repair bills will dwarf whatever you thought you saved by taking the easy way out. The true cost is being passed down to taxpayers, local governments, and industries that rely on clean water to survive. We are essentially subsidizing the convenience of the present with the prosperity of the future. To find out, we need to look at the money trail behind the companies producing this material and the hidden costs that aren't showing up on their quarterly earnings reports. Think about the last time you grabbed a coffee or picked up a snack wrapped in plastic. It feels like a fair exchange, a small amount of currency for a bit of convenience. It's an incomplete ledger. You aren't paying for what happens after the trash can lid closes. It's a classic case of a missing price tag. When a company sells you a plastic product, they get to keep the profit, but they effectively offload the cleanup bill onto your local municipality, your tax dollars, and the health of the planet. If the price of plastic actually accounted for the full cost of its life cycle, from the extraction of fossil fuels to the long-term management of the waste, that cheap item on the shelf would become prohibitively expensive overnight. Those trucks, the sorting facilities, the landfills, and the incinerators don't run on good intentions. When plastic isn't recycled, which, let's be honest, is most of the time, it doesn't just vanish. It finds its way into waterways, clogs drainage systems, and breaks down into microplastics that eventually work their way into the food chain. Then, there is the healthcare dimension. These are externalities, costs that ripple through society but never appear on a corporate balance sheet. We've built a global economy that treats the environment as a bottomless dumpster and a free warehouse. We are essentially running a business model that relies on borrowing from a bank that never sends a statement until the account is completely overdrawn. To understand how we can possibly reverse this, we have to stop looking at the price tag and start looking at the supply chain itself, specifically at the giants who benefit most from this invisible arrangement. Imagine a conveyor belt that stretches across the entire globe. From there, the belt accelerates. For a few fleeting moments, this object serves a purpose. But the lifespan of these items is absurdly short. Once that brief interaction ends, the conveyor belt drops the object into a bin, and from there, it vanishes from our sight. We call this the linear economy, a straight line that begins at extraction and terminates in a landfill or, more likely, the belly of the ocean. We act as if away is a magical place where our waste simply ceases to exist. We take a finite, non-renewable resource, invest massive amounts of energy to refine it, ship it across continents, and then discard it almost instantly. We are essentially burning through our natural capital, treating the Earth's crust like a disposable pantry. It's cheap, it's light, and it's everywhere. But the price tag at the supermarket doesn't reflect the true cost of this convenience. The conveyor belt doesn't stop because it is designed to be frictionless. If we were to slow it down, or, heaven forbid, turn it into a loop, the entire financial architecture of the plastics industry would have to be reimagined from the ground up. We have locked ourselves into a design philosophy that values speed over longevity and throughput over health. To find the exit, we need to look closer at the boardrooms where these production quotas are set, because the momentum of this belt is becoming impossible to ignore. If the current system is a runaway train, the brake isn't just about stopping, it's about changing the tracks entirely. But what if we stopped seeing these polymers as fleeting debris and started seeing them as high-value assets? This is the core of the circular economy, a shift from a linear take-make-waste model to a closed loop where plastic never truly hits the end of its life. Imagine a world where a water bottle isn't a piece of trash, but a raw material waiting for its next chapter. When we dump plastic, we are vaporizing the labor, the fossil fuels, and the sophisticated engineering that went into creating that molecule. By investing in advanced recovery infrastructure, the sophisticated sorting plants, and chemical recycling facilities, we transform these discarded items into a reliable stream of feedstock. Companies that learn to harvest their own waste are effectively insulating themselves from the erratic swings of the oil market. This creates a new kind of industrial ecosystem. When a product is designed to be disassembled, cleaned, and remanufactured, the cost of raw inputs drops significantly over time. This requires us to rethink the boardroom metrics. It's a shift from being a retailer of products to being a steward of materials. The transition is challenging because our current infrastructure is built for disposal, not recovery. It means redesigning packaging so it's actually recyclable, not just theoretically so. When we treat plastic as a permanent resource, we stop competing with the earth for more oil and start competing with each other to reclaim what we've already extracted. But to make this pivot stick, we have to look at the very way we calculate the cost of doing business, because the price tag on the shelf rarely tells the full story of what it actually costs to manufacture our modern world. That price tag on the shelf is a bit of a mirage. It captures the raw materials, the labor, and the marketing, but it conveniently ignores the bill that arrives long after the product is tossed. We were told that plastic was a resource waiting for its second life, but the cold, hard math tells a different story. In many cases, it is cheaper to drill for new oil, refine it, and forge virgin plastic than it is to collect, clean, sort, and reprocess the old stuff. When the market value of recycled material remains lower than the cost of extracting new petroleum, the economic incentive to recycle effectively vanishes. It's an emotional crutch that allows us to feel like we're part of the solution, even as the scale of the crisis accelerates. This isn't a failure of individual habits. It's a structural oversight. When a company designs a package that is technically impossible to recycle, they aren't just creating a product. They are externalizing a waste management bill that taxpayers eventually have to settle. True systemic change requires us to flip this model through extended producer responsibility. If a company is responsible for the cost of retrieving and reprocessing their own packaging, suddenly, unrecyclable plastics become a massive liability on their balance sheet. Sustainable design stops being a corporate social responsibility talking point and becomes a fundamental requirement for profitability. We aren't just talking about cleaning up beaches, we're talking about redesigning the incentive structure of global industry. It's about moving past the era where we subsidized convenience with environmental degradation. As we peel back these layers, we find that the solution isn't just about better bins. It's about shifting the entire landscape of corporate accountability. The transition toward a circular economy is no longer a distant aspiration. It is the new frontier of global commerce. We are witnessing a fundamental decoupling of economic growth from resource extraction, where innovation thrives not in spite of environmental constraints, but because of them. Companies that once prioritized the cheapest production methods are now scrambling to secure a competitive edge through material science, regenerative packaging, and closed-loop supply chains. This shift is fueled by a dual-engine force, the discerning consumer and the emboldened policymaker. When you choose brands that champion transparency, you aren't just buying a product. You are funding the infrastructure of a post-plastic future. Meanwhile, legislative frameworks like extended producer responsibility are transforming waste from a liability into a valuable asset. By mandating that manufacturers own the life cycle of their packaging, we are incentivizing design that prioritizes durability and infinite recyclability over disposability. Sustainable innovation is attracting record-breaking capital, proving that ecological stewardship is the most reliable hedge against long-term risk. We are moving toward a reality where the most successful enterprises will be those that have mastered the art of doing more with less, where the concept of waste is engineered out of the system entirely. We are moving from a linear take, make, waste model to a circular ecosystem that rewards efficiency and accountability. By aligning our individual spending power with our collective values, we force the hand of industry, pushing them to innovate or become obsolete. Policy acts as the guardrail, ensuring that the transition is not just a trend, but a permanent structural change. We have the tools, the technology, and the momentum to rewrite the relationship between humanity and the materials we use. It is time to stop subsidizing the past and start investing in a world that thrives on restoration rather than depletion. Your support helps us continue uncovering the stories behind the numbers.